Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? This is Danielle. Welcome to the close. Doing very well. Excellent. Let me know what kind of requests you have. Doing well, doing well. KTOS is your biggest winner. Awesome. Hood. Hey. Thoughts on ETHA, Roblox. Just going to take a few more doubles from me. Indian Summers return to the Pacific Northwest. Now. BMNR, check BE. Yeah, okay, we can look at all of those. All right, I'll go ahead and start with those. See, thoughts on Tesla. Hope my knee is better. Yeah, it was getting better, but then I don't know what happened. I got injured again. Need to get the wrap like you were all telling me. Intel, Oracle, thoughts on Open, look at VE. Okay, well, let's just go ahead and start with these. As far as the market internals are concerned, everything's looking pretty good. The market kind of moved lower earlier this morning, especially during the overnight session. But as of right now, buyers have been coming in like normal. I think that today, for the most part, the biggest thing is the Fed and everybody waiting on the Fed tomorrow. So I felt like today was going to be a little bit of a hurry up and wait mode, but we're definitely seeing buyers come in, and it looks like the S&P just barely ticked positive. And we're pausing right there. If you look at the NASDAQ, same thing, just barely ticked positive, and then it went back to negative. If we look at the market internals, we have the ticks. Ticks were hitting up into the plus 600 territory when we ended up going positive on the day. But for the most part, we've been stuck in a pretty tight range here between here and here. So, into the close, what we're looking for is there going to be anything in the way of consistency in the ticks, either to the upside or the downside? Then looking at the vol spread, vol spread was moving lower today until it shifted, and then it started moving higher. So, you definitely have a change in the market internals. When the market internals change like that, normally we're going to see buyers come in. And that's exactly what's happening. So if that shift in the vol spread plus the high ticks can continue, then we'll hopefully see a nice bullish close. Looking at the put call ratio, I think that the main thing here is just that the put call ratio has been really low. So put call ratio got down into 0.45, which just means that everybody is extremely bullish. There's a lot of calls outstanding, and you just have to be careful, because when there are so many calls outstanding, that's typically when the market is going to kind of take a turn. Now, the VIX was shifting higher earlier in the session as the market was falling, but it has since turned and now it's heading lower. So if the VIX can continue to head to the lows on the day, that is where, you're typically going to see the market trade higher. So as of right now, we see the NASDAQ make new highs, which is great. There's nothing bearish about a new high. Definitely saw some profit taking and selling off, but we have since reversed and we're going higher again. So if we go down to the lower time frame chart, we do have a 5-minute squeeze, and it looks like a 15-minute squeeze. So I mean, everything looks pretty bullish on my end. Obviously, things can change with the Fed tomorrow just because it is a news-related day. If you look at the S&P futures, pretty much the same thing, so I don't think I need to go over it in a ton of detail, but, you're shifting on the lower time frame charts. You made another new high today, and, you have those multiple squeezes. So let's go ahead and start off with the ones that everybody wants to talk about, which is going to be Tesla. Tesla at 420 is perfect and great, looks amazing. I think it's really interesting how it's basically getting stuck right around that price point. That is definitely a key psychological value and key target, especially because Elon tweeted about it. If you look at the lower time frame chart, you have another 15-minute squeeze, which suggests that it could gap up again overnight. So if we look at the targets on that 15-minute squeeze, that would take you up into 430 and then maybe even 440. So that is looking pretty good. 30-minute squeeze, nothing on the hour chart. Let's look at the lower or the higher time frame. Higher time frame, we already had a 195-minute squeeze fire, and then we also had a daily squeeze fire. So that daily squeeze, has fired and it's already met multiple price targets. Tesla is one of those stocks where it is the most heavily shorted in the Mag 7 anyway, for a mega cap stock. And it also still has some overhead resistance. But as of right now, you're right at that overhead resistance. So the way that these short squeezes work is, they'll typically go up into that resistance zone, and it's either going to get hammered there as people take profits, short sellers come back in, or it's going to explode through the highs. Now, being the Tesla fan that I am, especially now that it's up another 2.4%, I would rather bet on it exploding through the highs. Now, the issue is just kind of, if you're not already in it, then it's just kind of difficult to get in here. But at this point, I do think that, 450 is going to be the next price target, and then 500, and that's because of the weekly chart. So it all just depends on your time frame with this stock. If you're trading it just for this week for options expiration, then in that case, it's like, well, 430 is a good price target. But if you're like me and you're holding the long-term shares and you want to know like where the long-term shares are going to go, that weekly squeeze still hasn't fired. So when that weekly squeeze fires, you are typically going to get like 6 to 8 weeks of upwards price action. And these dots are still red and they're still white. When the squeeze fires, they turn green. So I don't know. I think there's still more upside here. If you look at this swing, that would take you up into 450. If you look at this major swing, that's where we have even more upside. So looking at that swing, that's going to bring you all the way long-term price target, right? 563, 600, and then 658. So it all depends on your time frame with stuff like this. But for this week, for an aggressive long, that's, where I would point to 430. So that's all looking good. Let's look at Microsoft. This is, I think, one of my favorite buys right now. Microsoft is a monthly squeeze that's just now firing to the long side. If you look at the weekly chart, the weekly chart's not really doing too much. I mean, it's just basically been consolidating. But the daily chart is what I think is exciting here. So let me just go ahead and clear these so you can see it from the beginning. So if you look at this, and the thing that was most exciting to me about it yesterday was the fact that it had broken up through the 50 simple on some decent volume today. We're kind of pulling back down to the 50 simple. But the 50 simple, which is this yellow line right here, is one of my favorite buy spots. And I love buying when we have incoming volume and then we also have a squeeze, because when we have this consolidation right there and it's breaking out due to high volume, that's typically where we're going to get a pretty big move. So I like that a lot. The targets for that are going to be a return into 540. and then back up into 555, and we'll just have to see if there's enough momentum or not to get through this 555 price point, because that is a pretty critical resistance zone. But I think, at the very minimum, you could probably at least trade it up into 530, 540. Now, there's some lower time frame squeezes too, so you just want to watch these. Definitely, I mean, it doesn't look that great, seeing as the lower time frame squeezes are pulling back. But when you look at this overall, um, you know, I still think that it's a nice bullish setup. You have a good daily chart setup, and I just feel like, I don't know, just feel like I knew today was going to be a little bit wonky with the FOMC tomorrow, so I'm not that concerned about it. If you look at Amazon, I think Amazon looks great. This is like a picture perfect what a buy looks like off of the 50 simple. If you're looking at the 50 simple right here, you just see how this wick came directly down into this zone. And there was also a Fibonacci area of support right there. And you have a pretty clean price target too, up at 242 and then 246. So let's call it 245. So I don't know. I think Amazon looks great. I started adding this one yesterday. I have some put credit spreads, and then I added some long calls too, because I think that Amazon is heading to the new all-time high in the short term, and then in the long term, I think it's going to go up into 260 and then eventually up into 300. So all that is looking pretty good. Cannot really complain about that. So I feel like, yes, Tesla looks great here. Not the best spot for entry, but for those people like myself that may be a little bit more aggressive, I mean, these short squeezes, you're not really going to have the vast majority of the time with a short squeeze, you're not really going to have a great entry, just because a lot of the time they're already kind of taken off. And then that's how that there's momentum. So especially with something like Tesla, I mean, the issue with the squeeze is just always that you don't know how long it's going to consolidate for before it breaks out. And if you look at Tesla, I mean, for months and months and months, it was just doing nothing, right? Just trading sideways. And then finally we got the breakout. And so this is one of those things where it's like, of course the better entry is here or here or here or here. But I mean, especially if you're trading options, the likelihood that you held your options all the way until it finally broke out is not that good, just because it took forever. I like to use that meme from Titanic of the elderly woman where she says, "Oh, it's been 84 years," because that's how this squeeze felt. So with this one, buying it on the breakout, that was, I think, better than just letting theta decay eat you alive for months on end. So anyways, sometimes when you do that, you're just not going to have a great entry. Let's go ahead and look at NVIDIA. So I think NVIDIA looks great here. NVIDIA is right on top of the 50 simple as well. So, hopefully, I don't want the market gods to hear me and do the opposite. But in a perfect world, after FOMC, we get a bullish move, and then we can come in and buy some of these Mag 7 names that are bouncing off of this critical zone of support that also have this bullish consolidation, and we can buy them while they rip higher. Now, if there's some sort of, I don't know what it would be, but if there's some sort of surprise from the Fed tomorrow and everybody's freaking out and the market's selling off, conversely, the main thing to look for is going to be these areas of support, because if those areas of support break on high volume and some of these tickers are down like 3% or more, that would be the time to say, okay, wasn't a buy setup, it failed. What do we need to look for? So just keep that in mind, that, it is a little bit unique just because we do have the Fed tomorrow. But at the end of the day, we're just playing the technical setups here, and whichever way they play out, that's how I'm going to trade them. So Looking at the cues, great move here. Price target's 600. That's the key psychological value. That's the level that we're looking for. Um, we hit 592.86, so that's pretty dang close, and we're extremely overbought. So, at this point, I already took profits on my QQQ butterfly. I think I took it on this candle on the 12th because we were almost at my 590 price target. So yeah, I mean, I don't want to chase that at this point, but I think overall it still looks really good. Let's go ahead and look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin is another ticker that is ready to break out above the 50 simple. So if you look at this here, you have critical area of resistance, okay? But again, you have this great squeeze and consolidation. And I think that this is going to fire to the upside. We never know for sure which direction the squeeze is going to fire, but we are going to bet on the squeeze firing in the direction of the trend the vast majority of the time. And I would argue that trend is still up. This one is a little bit up for debate just because it did fall and it's underneath the resistance zone. But some of the best breakout trades, especially on a pullback, are when you recover this kind of move in an overall bullish trend and you can just break out of that resistance zone. So I think Bitcoin's going higher. I think that it will retest this previous high up here, and then ideally onwards and upwards to 130,000 a coin. So if you look at that and then you look at some Ethereum, this one looks great. It's a low priced ETF. Hey man, just might as well buy it in the long-term accounts. I haven't traded this one on a short-term basis, but I can tell you that just using the regular technical analysis that I always do, the price target's going to be up at 40. So I like that one. It's looking good. And, like I said, I think this kind of thing is also good for a long-term buy and hold. Now, you might argue like, well, it's right near the previous all-time high, but it's like, well, it's only $36 and it's relatively new. And, how long are you going to hold it for? Because if you go out to the monthly chart, you can see that you do have a price target at 40, but there's also another price target at 45. So if you are currently trading at 34, I mean, it's still like another $10 of upside. And then, you just have exposure in this area. BMNR, this one looks like it's going to go. Let me see if I can get short float on it. This one was too new to get accurate short float before. So I don't know if this is accurate. On Finviz, I'm seeing that it's at 3.89%. I have a hard time believing that it's that low. Typically, names like this, it's just difficult to get accurate short float numbers. So can't say for sure. Let me look at Yahoo Finance. Yeah, it also says 3.69% short float. So maybe it doesn't have a high short float, but I mean, it looks like a buy to me, It has momentum, it has a squeeze, it has volume coming in. What else could you want? This is the incoming volume that's breaking out. This is the consolidation that I'm looking for it to break out. You have the breakup above the 50 simple. It's up 6%. The only thing that would be better about this is if it had like 15 or 20% short float. So, I mean, overall, I would say looks pretty good. The only thing that I don't like about this one, which is typical with any new ticker, is just that you just don't have a lot of history. So you just don't have long-term technical analysis and chart history. So it just makes it a lot more difficult to run levels on and stuff like that. Let's see this one, ETHE. So anything like this, it's just kind of a disaster because you start all the way up here, it got totally destroyed down to 1 cent. It's trying to recover. There was a weekly squeeze at least, so that would have been an entry point down here with the high incoming volume. So this was a volume breakout. You can also see the volume breakout right here. That's combined with that consolidation that ended up exploding. So all that looks pretty good. Let's see. Come on, give me the data. Thanks, Danielle. You're great. Love your work. Thoughts on MSTR? Oh, thanks, guys. Mara, BMNR, IBIT, Amazon, short open. Sorry. Oh, that one's not loading. Come on, give it to me. There we go. Okay, so Ethereum. I mean, Ethereum looks great. Like I have nothing bad to say about it. You have $5,000 key psychological value target right there. After that, 53.44. You have a daily squeeze. It's a slingshot squeeze. I love these kind of slingshot squeezes because it gives you a good entry. So when you have a ticker that's pulled back into support, you're going to get a much better entry than like something with Tesla, for example. So with this squeeze, you see how it went like this and then it pulled back and now it's shifting higher. That pullback just gives you a great entry. And then that white arrow showing up because it has big incoming volume. So the white arrow shows up when this oscillator crosses because you have a big volume buy. So anytime there's volume behind it, it's just going to make the move stronger. Now, you can see that it came up and hit resistance and it's kind of pulling back after that. I think that's okay. It's normal. This kind of move is just one of those things like that Tesla squeeze that I was talking about where you just have to buy it, sit, wait, you know. You just never know when these things are going to take off. Sometimes you just have to wait for a couple days, sometimes a couple weeks. Sometimes you buy it and the next day you wake up and it's like, bam, up 10%. And it's like, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. So it's always hard to say with the squeeze, but the idea is, just to get in the squeeze before it takes off. Netflix. So I don't love, there's a few things about this one that I just don't love. It was recovering really well. I mean, you can see how it went from red to yellow to green to light green. But then you just have this major incoming volume sell. I mean, this is a wide range expansion candle on high volume. That's not good. Typically when I get a day like that, I wait until the next day to see if it will hold the low of that candle, and then it didn't, right? So it broke it 2 more times, which is not good. And then at this point, now it's underneath this resistance when it tried so hard to recover and it just got knocked down. So, man, that doesn't look good. Let's see, look at the lower time frame charts. I mean, it's definitely trying, it's trying, but it's not one that I would say, okay, guys, let's buy it right now. Ooh, and so if we go to the weekly squeeze, this kind of helps you understand why it's doing that on the daily chart. So weekly squeezes are really great for buying long-term stocks, and it's definitely something that I use for long-term stocks. But the issue is when a ticker is going into a squeeze on the weekly chart, the daily chart can be choppy for literal months because every dot on the weekly squeeze is 1 week. And so it can, if it's squeezing on a weekly time frame, for like 10, 11, 12 bars, I mean, that's months of time where the daily chart is just going like this. So I try not to trade in the options market, tickers that are squeezing on the weekly chart, because it's usually just an exercise in frustration until it finally breaks out. But the thing is that when it finally breaks out, it's like the best thing that ever happened, right? Just going back to the Tesla chart, because that's a weekly squeeze breakout. And the weekly squeeze is one of my favorite signals to buy long-term stocks. So when it's doing this, and you can see the squeeze right here, this one was squeezing since June. That's just like the time to buy the shares, buy the shares, buy the shares, buy the shares. And then finally it breaks out. So I would not buy Netflix personally right now. Doesn't really look very good to me. Intel, this is always hard for me because I like trading relative strength, and I know people like Intel and it used to be so great and all that kind of stuff, but I don't know. It just seems to me like it's just been a big fat loser for a long time. I mean, it's topped out in like 2019, 2020. At least recently, if you go back even further, obviously you're going to find, better price action back in the year 2000, but that's just way, way far away. It's not really very relevant for me. I like trading relative strength, and I always have my best success with trading relative strength. So when I see charts like this, it's like I would just rather spend my money on something else, because there's just so much overhead resistance. Like every single time you make another new high, it's just it just has a wall of resistance overhead. Um, so I don't know. These just aren't the kind of stocks that I buy personally. Yeah, it might recover. Maybe somebody will write me some mean comments on Twitter later when it's at like $40 or something like that, but it's just not really my style. Intel is a has-been stock. Thank you. Are you still in Oklo? I closed Oklo yesterday. Let's go ahead and look at it. So I closed this one yesterday, like right at the close. It was up like 15% yesterday. Whenever you get these kinds of moves, it's like a true gift from the trading gods. And this is a really good example of waiting in the squeeze, where it's been in a squeeze since the beginning of August. And it's like you're just waiting or waiting or waiting. And then you start to see the volume coming in, volume coming in, volume coming in. And then you see how it breaks out above the previous area of resistance. And then this candle right here is when you're ready. It's like, I'm ready. It's the time. This thing is going to go. And because of the short flow, especially if it just gaps up overnight, that's when it can rip. And so this last time I was in it, which was right here, faked me out, which was a bummer. And it came back down to here. But yesterday was a gift from the trading gods. So yeah, I closed that one out yesterday, and I did really well on those options. So at this point, I mean, the next target is 100, but you just have to take those gifts and run with it. If you want to like scale out and try to leave some of it on, don't let me stop you. But when you get those big moves like that, it's important to take some money off of the table. Okay, so I'm just going through some requests here. Danielle, thanks for TSLL. Yeah, so I mean, when you get those expensive stocks, and Tesla is getting more expensive now, you can look at those 2x ETFs. This one right here, I mean, I think I sent out the alert like maybe when it's down at like 14, so it's already up to 19. So that one's doing pretty well. As far as the price target on it is concerned, it just depends on what you're doing. I had some people on Twitter asking me, because I had posted on Twitter that I was looking at TSLL, if this was okay for a long-term pick or not. I mean, I think it's important when you get into a trade, if you know in your mind if you want it to be long-term or short-term. In this instance, I did buy, I have multiple accounts. And so I did buy some of it in a long-term account that I am intending on just leaving there and seeing what happens with it, because I do think it's possible that it trades up to 30 and it trades up to even 40 where this previous high was. And the longer term accounts, I'm not going to sit there and manage them every day. And, if it's down 10% tomorrow, I'm not going to do anything with it. But I also have some of it in my options trading account too. So in the options trading account is where I would say, okay, this is one move. It made a target at 19, the next target's at 21, and then I would probably get out of it like a trade. Unless it just goes to the moon, then obviously I will hold it. But I think overall that one's looking pretty good. Let me adjust and go back over to the market internals. Thought we were going to get a good close here, but we've just kind of seen some rejection at the 66.75 price point. I mean, it's not like there's major selling or anything. It's just a lack of buying, I would say. So it's not really something I would look at and say, hey guys, let's short it. I mean, we could just because it's fading and there's just a lack of buying. You do have the vol spread that's kind of tanking there. The VIX is spiking pretty good. So it does look like a 230 short. I don't know that I want to get into shorting it here today. I don't really like to short the market when the market's so strong. It just kind of goes against my relative strength instincts and just, overall following the trend and everything else. You can try it, and it is a little tempting because the SPX is right at 6,600, which is that key psychological value. Just feel like a lot of the time, when you try to just short something on a really short time frame, and by short time frame I mean the next 20 minutes, a lot of the time when you do that and the market is overall strong, you might get a face ripper the last like 8 minutes of the day. So that's why I'm kind of hesitant to do that. If you really want to do it, the price target would be 6,600 because that's the key psychological value. And I mean, we are getting negative market internals, so there is a decent reason to do that. Let's see. Roblox. So Roblox setup still looks really good. We're just holding up above these areas of support. We have this nice solid trend right here. We have some nice green candles. We have a daily squeeze. We have a nice volume breakout right here. We have squeezes on the 195-minute chart, and then we have squeezes on the 15-minute chart. So, I mean, the thing is, guys, is all of these high momentum setups, which, Roblox, Dash, Robinhood, all of these setups, they're going to do really, really well when the market is ripping higher because they move more than the market does anyways. So they're really great to be in when the market's ripping higher. I tried to reduce my positions overall this week just because of the Fed. You don't ever want to I don't ever want to be completely flat because of the Fed, just because I feel like, you still need to look at what's actually happening in the technicals in the market and follow along. And I mean, if I closed all of my positions every time there was a news related event, then I wouldn't have any trades on ever. So it's just one of those things where it's like, no, I'm not going to close all of my trades, but there is a good reason to take profits on a bunch of them. And a lot of the trades that I had on, it was just time to take profits on them. So, Galaxy took profits, Oklo took profits. Um, which other ones? Rocket Lab. I took off like half of it yesterday. Then you get a move like you got in Rocket Lab today, and it's like, dang, wish I would have taken all of it off. So you just don't ever really want to wake up on Fed day and have all of your good trades that were making you a lot of money just suddenly like going to zero, because that's no good. So you definitely want to scale out of positions. As far as a lot of these go, I mean, I think I would rather, since I did scale out of a lot of my positions, I think I would probably rather wait until tomorrow to get into too many more, just to make sure that I'm going along with the direction of the market, because that's where you're going to find the most success. So if you're going along with the direction of the market and that direction is up, like, then that's when it's like, all right, let's lay into Robinhood. Let's lay into Roblox. Like, these are some of my favorite setups that I've been talking about for a while. Robinhood has another squeeze on the 15-minute chart and a target at 120 and then 125. So, I mean, that looks great. If you look at RGTI, I'm definitely going to keep holding this one, because it's up 4% and it has that short float. Let me go ahead and see. So it has 16% short float and it's up 4%. So it's one of those things where it's like, this is the moment in time where it's going to break out like tomorrow or it's going to fail. And so the issue is just always, if you close it right when it's right at the high, you're not going to be able to take advantage of the move when it goes to here. So I always like to look at the price action and what's happening when you hit that high. As of right now, it's up 4%. The squeeze has fired. I mean, there's not a bunch of extra incoming volume, which would be the main thing that I would like to see. So you can see that the volume's pretty normal. The best breakouts are going to happen on high volume, which is like this. So I don't know, just got to be some news related event for this thing to take off. But yeah, I'm still in it. Still looks good. If we look at my short squeeze watch list overall, the quantum names are doing well. You have IonQ that's just completely exploded. This is one that I just bought in my long-term account. RGTI bought it in my long-term account also. QBTS. This one no, I didn't buy that one in my long-term account, but I did trade in and out of it. And then, like, how do you make more money in your long-term or your short-term account? I mean, the thing is, they're just totally different. Like, I had 2 babies back to back. I have a 11-month-old baby, and then I have like an almost 3-year-old. So what I found was, like, during that time, when I was super pregnant and then on maternity leave and, just dealing with babies, it was one of those things where it's like the long-term stuff was what I was focusing on, because, when you're up all night with a newborn, and in my case, I have an 11-month-old baby that still wakes up every 2.5 hours, which drives me absolutely insane. There's just like months of time where focusing on the long-term stuff just worked a little bit better for my lifestyle, especially. And it's one of those things too, where it's like you can apply the same setups, and you can just buy it and not really have to worry about it. And so when it's a Fed day or something else, it's like, who cares? I don't care what it's doing. I'm just going to buy it and hold it. And like Tesla, Nvidia, Microsoft, Broadcom are my top holdings in my biggest long-term account. And it's like, Broadcom is something that it just keeps going and going and going and going. And it was one of those things where it's like, I didn't really trade it that much in the options market, because until it split last year, it the volume in the options market just wasn't very good. So it's like one of my favorite stocks, but I just wasn't really trading it. And then you get these days where it explodes. So that's great. I don't know. It's just like a different strategy, just different things to do. So I use the long-term accounts a lot when I have to do things on my house. Um, I'll just like sell some shares to pay for whatever. Like right now we we had too many kids and not enough bedrooms. So we have a barn that we're going to convert into an office space. So, stuff like that. I just find it really useful. It's really nice because it's like the stock account just keeps going up, keeps going up. And it's like you just sell some shares and pay for something and then it goes up again. So it's like it was free. So I don't know. That's what I like to use the long term account for. But then afterwards, I'm like, dang, that costs more because I use shares. So I don't know. It's still a work in progress, but basically with the long-term accounts, I mean, it's really the exact same strategy I use in short term. I just use weekly and monthly squeezes and, buying relative strength stocks and laying into those bad boys. And some of the recent ones that I got were the RGTI, um Ion Q, like I bought a bunch of that one. And so just for an example, like with Ion Q, I did have some options trades that I made money on in Ion Q. I think back in here with this daily squeeze. So I was trading this one in the options market, made money on this rally right here. But then after that, do you see how it just was consolidating and it was just like faking out, just fake you out? So I just thought, whatever. Let me just buy the shares, buy the shares, buy the shares, buy the shares. And then like I haven't traded it in the options market in like 2 months and then it just explodes. So yeah, I don't know, just kind of different strategies here. So you opted not to keep the kids in the barn, probably a good call. That is a great idea. Do you look at the daily charts for your long-term positions? So anyways, I mean, yeah, I look at the daily charts, but it's primarily I'm buying them because of the weekly and the daily squeezes. Tesla 423, let's look at it. All right, if Tesla can just break 425. I mean, I hate to even say it because it's just crazy. It's just exploded so high. But I mean, it's a buy signal. When you have a 15-minute squeeze like that and it's going out on high volume at the end of the day, it's like, well, there's another buy signal. Having 2 young ones isn't double the effort. It's 4 times the effort as just having one. Yeah. All right, so I'm just scrolling through the chat. If I missed your question, just give it to me again. It's not that I'm ignoring you. It's just there's so many questions and it's just hard to get to all of them. And I'm trying to, read the current comments and see the old comments. Rivian, I mean, I just feel like this one's dead money personally. Whenever something's trading sideways like forever, I just can't really come around to thinking that it might be a good stock. I mean, I know that eventually it may break out and I mean, there is a weekly squeeze. And I understand that people have other reasons for wanting to buy this stuff. Like maybe you have one of their vehicles and you really like it and it's only 14 bucks a share and it's like, if that's the case, like don't let me stop you. I have a hard time getting into stuff like this that's just been trading sideways for years and years on end because it's like, when is something going to change? And so typically the change is going to be a fundamental change. So it's at that point that I will look at the earnings results. And for me, if the earnings results are not having some kind of major shift, then it's just still dead money for me. A lot of the times with these names that start to take off, what will happen is they just suddenly start doing really well over earnings. Now, IonQ is not the perfect example because you can see that it still had a big negative 6%, negative 5% gap down. It did have, one, two, three earnings reports in a row where it gapped up before that major shift happened. So if I have a stock that's like a big fat loser that's just trading sideways for years on end, and then all of a sudden it has an earnings report and it gaps up 20%, then I'll take a different look at it. In this case, it's like, well, um, they beat estimates 6 out of the last 8 quarters, which is good, but then every single time except for this time, they gapped down. So it's just like, I just don't like it. But it's okay if you don't agree with me. Oklo might run to 127. Yeah, it very well could. Um, for me, the other reason why I had to sell it too was because one of the options that I had bought in Oklo, I bought it when I was in New York. So it was like the last week of August and it was going to expire this week. So I only had 4 days left on the life of my option and it was up like a 3x. So I definitely wanted to close it. If you have longer term options, you can wait. It's just, like I said, when you get that gift of a 17% up day, it's, you're going to have those times where after that 17% up day, the next day is like a massive day too, which is great. But you just have to remember that you're gonna make like most of the money on the meat of the move, and then you might get a little bit of crumbs at the top, but it's just more difficult to grab that. PLTR. So I think that this one looks great. Nice cup and handle pattern here. It came down, it held the 50 simple, it shifted. You have the daily squeeze. You have a price target at 180 and then at 200 after that. And then lower time frame 15-minute squeeze also. All right, so I'm just trying to follow something in the chat. Somebody's talking about transferring their money to a different platform. So next Tuesday, I'm going to be doing a presentation with, I'm going to be doing the trading room with the COO of Public, which is a super cool platform. I have one of my stock accounts in there. They actually offer you money to transfer and they also offer you rebates on your trades. So, I don't know. I'm gonna put more money in the public.com account. Check out their options trading because they also at Public they have like a 4.1% APR on your cash, which is pretty big. Especially like when I'm trading, I'm only using like 10% of my account to actually trade and the rest of the cash is just chilling there. So I think Thinkorswim has gotten a little bit dated like that. I was trying out Moomoo for options trading and I literally put money in it and never used the account for a year. And I made almost $1,000 just not even using the account because I transferred money in it and was going to try to trade with it. And then I just got bored, I guess. I was trying to figure out how to use the platform, and I was having a lot of problems with Thinkorswim, and I thought it was Thinkorswim's fault. Then I discovered it was the memory on my computer. Long story. Anyways, I think some of these brokerages that offer you, a percent APR on the cash is better. So anyways, if you look at the S&P, this is pretty much why I didn't want to short it, even though the ticks were weak at the 2:30 central time frame. It's just because, you know, a lot of the times you're just going to be better off sticking with the trend. And it looks like the buyers are coming right back in. Danielle, pull back an iron, good for the long term. Kids are probably happier in the barn, lots to do. Yeah, so Leo's been begging. We have a tree house at our house, but it was built like who knows when, and it was not very safe. He's been begging for it to get fixed. And Daryl and I just haven't had any time to do that. So I asked these contractors that I know to look at it. Anyways, so I start getting it fixed for Leo's birthday. And then I mentioned something about, my other kids going in it as well. And this was supposed to be like Leo's birthday present. And he's like, well, it's my treehouse. Nobody else is allowed in it. It's my birthday present. I was like, well, no, like we're not going to fix a treehouse for you and not allow the other two children in the family in it. It's like, well, that's not a good birthday present then. Like, well, I guess you kind of have a point there, but the money has already been spent on the treehouse now, man. So, anyways, his birthday is this weekend. Enjoy your kids while you're small. Yes. If you did raise them in the barn, when they leave a door open, someone asks, were you raised in a barn? They can answer yes. INOD has a weekly squeeze version. But as far as iron, I mean, there's not going to be any long-term pullback for this for a long time. I mean, that's just massive, massive move. A good pullback would be into like 20. So, and the thing is if you look at the lower time frame chart, it does have a good options trading buy setup right here. Enjoying the update. Great job. Hope to hear about Hood. Okay, I can look at that. You're awesome. Thanks for taking the time to do this soon. Yeah. So anyways, now I don't know what to do about this kid and his birthday, because it's like, man, the treehouse is like super cool. I decided to make the deck bigger. Now it's like a play structure. I was going to add a slide. I figure now I can just say it's all the kids' birthday presents, and now I don't have to buy any of them birthday presents. BBAI. But I don't think they would like that either. Okay, so BBAI, yes, I know it's up. It has a great volume breakout move. My only issue with this kind of move is just that it has all this overhead resistance. So you just have to keep in mind that it has a lot of resistance. It has a lot of spots. It could pause. It could fail. And because it has all those spots that it can fail, it's not going to be as solid as some of these others that are just in a bullish trend, like this one was a pretty clean bullish trend. I mean, Robinhood, like how much easier of a trend could you get than that? Like this one looks great. Price target at 125, 140. It's up today when the market's not really doing a whole lot. The only reason why I haven't done a whole lot today is just because of the Fed, and you can get some pretty big moves. So when it comes to the Fed, it's just one of those things where, typically in the morning before the Fed, you just get a lot of choppiness. And then what usually happens, and I'm on the mic in the trading room when the Fed is occurring. So you'll see me there if you are, in the room tomorrow. But generally what I do is I just wait until you first get the announcement, then Powell goes on the mic. There's going to be some back and forth. You have to wait until Powell is off the mic, because until he has turned the mic off, you just have no clue what he's going to suddenly say that will send the market into a tizzy. So I generally don't really like to do anything until the last hour of the day on a Fed day. And then that's when we get the big move. And that's why it's important to have this list ready. So, for example, if tomorrow's like a great bullish move, everybody's happy, yay, the Fed's so amazing. Okay, Rocket Lab, we can see if that one will start coming back. But Roblox, Hood, PLTR, those are definitely ones that we want to look at. Anything on the short squeeze watch list, typically those are going to do well when the market's going up. But for example, let's say Powell says something that nobody likes and the market's getting hammered tomorrow. That's when we want to focus on all the Mag 7 stocks that I talked to you about that are right on the 50 simple. And we just need to see if they break down or not. So anyways, that's kind of my game plan. I'll be in here tomorrow. I'm also doing another YouTube live in an hour, so you can find that. I'll just post it on Twitter. But yeah, I'm doing another YouTube live in an hour. As far as Mara is concerned, these weed stocks have just been a huge pain, but I'll give it to you. It is breaking out. It is breaking out, and it's breaking out on high volume. I didn't personally see what the news was on this. I try to pay attention to most everything. 28% short float. I mean, it's a short squeeze. It's breaking out above the 50, above the 200. I don't love the overall price pattern, and like I said, I didn't see what the news was. But if you want to try to trade it up into 20 and then 22, I think it looks pretty decent. Galaxy, man, I took the rest of my profits on this one this morning, and now it's breaking out even more. So now I'm wondering if I should buy it again. But looks really good. This morning, it was just kind of like, market's gapping down, and I want to make sure that I take more profits before the Fed. And this one was just a little bit lackluster this morning. And you don't like to be in a situation like this. This is the worst with the short squeeze, where it's like you have this huge up day, you're making all this money. The next day it gaps up again and it makes a new high. And then you're just sitting here waiting for it to gap again because of the short float. And then instead the short sellers just come in and just like destroy it. And so, that is unfortunate, but that's also what happens when you're playing the short squeeze. It happened right here also. So with something like that, now it's down 12%. I did take half of it off the table yesterday, but I still had the other half on. This is kind of the scenario that I was trying to avoid by taking the rest of my profits on Galaxy. But I will say Galaxy looks absolutely beautiful today. Like literally cannot complain about that at all. Chewy could work this week from earnings. I mean, like I said, just not really my favorite pattern. These kind of stocks that are trying to recover from a big downswing like that, especially from a destructive earnings report, it's just going to be harder to trade them higher because of all the overhead resistance. Galaxy shorts have stops over the 33 high. I completely agree. Mitch says that he suggested Galaxy to you, yet I sold it too early. Yeah, Sam was the one that I remember bringing up Galaxy first. Oh man, you're right. I thought that Mara was you're right. Sorry. Crypto miner, not weed stock. What am I mixing that one up with? Thanks, Rick. Anyways, okay, so if we go back to Mara, which I mixed up with something else. All right, so I guess that makes a lot more sense, you know, if you look at that as far as a Bitcoin breakout perspective, rather than the weed stocks, which are dead to me. Let's see. Bitcoin. Bitcoin didn't completely break out, but it's pretty close. You're holding one runner because I said, yeah, Tilray is dead to me. Thanks, Danielle. MJNA is the weed one. So many tickers. Iron uses renewable energy and Mara is getting slammed by high cost electricity prices. Yeah, I mean, I said that Galaxy could be the next GameStop because people are just obsessed with this name. Like, I just can't believe how much it blew up when I did this on social media. And it's like, I put one video, maybe two videos about it on my YouTube. And it's like, I get my YouTube analytics and just everybody's coming to my YouTube to see about Galaxy. I have like my cousin texting me about it. It's just, I just couldn't believe how many retail traders just love Galaxy. So when you have a lot of that, and then it really takes off on social media. I mean, one of the primary reasons why GameStop took off on social media was because of all the retail trading interest. It wasn't like the hedge funds were like, oh, guys, guess what? GameStop is like the next best thing since sliced bread. No, it was not that. It was retail traders and it was Roaring Kitty and it was, you know, people just being obsessed with it because they thought it was so cool. And that's why I said, like, I think Galaxy is the next GameStop because, I mean, I talk about stocks all the time and I talk about different tickers all the time. And I get a pretty good, clear viewpoint of what people like and what people don't like. And there's some pretty obvious ones like Tesla, of course, but especially to find what I thought was kind of an obscure ticker. And I was like, oh, the pattern looks great on this. And then to have just like people coming out of the woodwork, like celebrating it left and right. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. Okay, so SOUN, this is a picture perfect example of like a great long-term weekly squeeze, like stock buy and hold. Because of this overall pattern. So you had this really great pattern, come back, you hold, you have a nice turn and a shift, you have incoming volume. Do you see how the volume was low here and then it just kept stair stepping higher? That's what you need for a breakout. You can also see the volume stair stepping higher here. You have that consolidation. And then on this one, you also have a little bit of the earnings piece too, because if you go back and you say, okay, this quarter they lost 15 cents, then they lost 13 cents, then they lost 10 cents, then they lost 9 cents, then they lost 7 cents, 7 cents, 4 cents, 4 cents, 5 cents, 6 cents, 3 cents. So do you see how the EPS numbers are continually increasing on a regular basis? So that's the kind of thing where all it takes is one quarter where suddenly now they make 1 cent instead of losing 3 cents and then it just explodes. And the thing is, it's like, I'm not, you know, an expert fundamentalist. I don't know exactly what they do or anything like that, but I can tell you with the technical pattern plus the high short float, that's exactly how these kind of things play out. And that's why for something like this, it's like I would just buy the shares because it's only $14. The price target's 30 and then 36. I don't know exactly when they're going to have a great quarter or some news or whatever, but I can show you that last quarter it exploded after earnings. So that's a pretty good pattern. And then you also have the quarter before that, it exploded after earnings too. So all you need on something like that is just going to be a bullish catalyst, and it very well could be that fundamental earnings catalyst. And then from a short-term trading perspective, I don't really have anything on it for you because I don't have a daily squeeze. You could try to trade it back up into 16, but I mean, I like to time those entries with squeezes. Makes sense? So anyways, we got a pretty choppy close here today. I'm glad that I didn't trade that with a 0 DTE SPX marijuana. Yeah. Is Roaring Kitty still around? Yeah, I had a segment on Roaring Kitty back in June. I think it was on Yahoo Finance. They called me and they're like, "Can you look at this Roaring Kitty post or whatever?" And it was taken off again, but it's just kind of dead money at this point. NVIDIA owns equity in Soon and might acquire it and integrate Soon into a vertical. Boom. All right. Well, I have to go ahead and head out of here. Like I said, I have another stream in like an hour. Galaxy has partnered with CRWV for new data center development and NVIDIA for GPUs. They each have ownership in the company. Sounds like a good one. All right. Well, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the trading room tomorrow.